Sun-Mercury combinations. Now it's important to remember that these combinations are all related to Lajatati Avashtas. You're going to learn a lot if you study the Lajatati Avashtas. So that's covered in the Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, Volume 2. So if you have that book, you can flip to the chapter on Lajatati Avashtas. Again, the Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, Volume 2. We also have a course at AshevilleVedicAstrology.com on the Lajatati Avashtas, which takes you through all the important planetary combinations and how they function together to either support or cause difficulty within your chart. But anyway, Sun-Mercury combinations. This is a common one. Why is that? Because Sun and Mercury are never really that far apart, especially when we think about the fact that Mercury is an inner planet. Both Mercury and Venus are inner planets, which means they can't go too far outside of one or two signs away from the Sun. I don't remember if it's two signs or not. It might just be one sign. But the outer planets, the reason they can go so far away from, and by the outer planets I'm talking about the planets beyond Earth in the solar system, they can go in houses 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on, because they're not as close to the Sun. All right, so we have to remember that Sun and Mercury combinations, just like Sun and Venus combinations, are relatively common for this reason. Sun and Mercury combinations typically are supportive. Again, it's going to depend on the dignity of the planets involved. If you get Sun in the first 15 degrees of Pisces and Mercury in the first 15 degrees of Pisces, well, Mercury is going to be debilitated there, so it might not be able to contribute to this combination very well. If you get the Sun in debilitation, Mercury might be able to help out a little bit, but still, the dignity of these combinations are going to show you whether they're going to work well or poorly. And again, we can't cover every possible thing that these combinations represent. So if I'm just talking about the positive and you happen to have these planets in a negative disposition, just reverse what I'm saying. That's the way we want to look at this. So this yoga, the key thing that most people touch upon with Sun-Mercury combinations are good business skills and intelligence. And I don't know about you, but if you've paid attention to the world and you've talked to people and you've been in business for yourself, the intelligence of the population and business skills do not seem to be off the charts all the time for most people that we work with. So this is why you really need to think about what is the dignity of these planets. The negative side of it can make a person too clever or too shrewd. It can make a person manipulative. It can make a person too detail-oriented. Or we have to remember, Mercury is the capacity to manage the affairs of our life. The Sun represents our kingdom. And so when Mercury is in bad dignity, or even combust, and combustion, you got to get Mercury pretty close to the Sun for combustion because he's always near the Sun. So he doesn't suffer as much as other planets. But what happens is you get Mercury in bad dignity with this Sun, especially if the Sun's in bad dignity as well, and the person has a lot of difficulty managing their kingdom. Because remember, the Sun represents the king, the kingdom. And again, if you pay attention to humanity, you probably get the sense that most people really have difficulty managing their kingdom. So when we're focusing on the positive aspect, we really want to look at the dignity. All right, we really want to look at the dignity because this is a common combination. And not everyone is a business superstar, not everyone is a genius, not everyone manages their life well. In fact, in my experience, it's typically the other way around. But the good thing about Sun-Mercury is that through practice and attending to it, you can develop skills. You can learn these things, right? We have to remember that this is a yoga that deals with intelligence and learning, which means that if it's not good, well, by putting your attention to whatever it is you want to learn, whatever it is you want to manage, this Sun-Mercury can become something positive for you. All right, so dignity aside, dignity is going to show you what you start out with, what's the basic emphasis that how you're using this Sun-Mercury combination. But again, through practice, through skills, developing your skills, you can work with the Sun-Mercury in a positive fashion. So in the positive sense, usually makes one good at business, managing the affairs of their life. Gives one great capacity to be organized, again, due to Mercury. Gives good capacity to measure and analyze things. When it's in a negative situation, the person mismanages their life. They spend too much time focusing on details that aren't important. And then that makes them not really attend to what they need to pay attention to in order to be successful. Sun-Mercury combinations are prominent in people who are poor criminals, I guess you could say it that way, because they have an idea of how to like get around laws, and they have an idea of like looking for loopholes and things. But since maybe the Mercury isn't so good, they don't analyze it enough, and so they end up just tripping themselves up. So with Sun-Mercury combinations, you want to be pretty cautious if you decide you want to cheat someone or do anything of that nature. You got to have a good Sun-Mercury combination for that. But the good news is when Sun and Mercury are good, you typically don't want to do that anyway. And a lot of this will be impacted by the aspects to the planets, even the Rashi aspects to the sign these planets are in. You get a lot of negative Rashi aspects to the sign Sun and Mercury is in, and this is where a person's going to probably go down the more manipulative, unscrupulous route. You get more positive planets, benefic planets, gentle planets, Jupiter or Venus, either Rashi aspect in the sign these planets are in, or a planetary aspect in them directly. That will help to support this yoga to work better. All right, so Sun-Mercury combinations. And where are the difficulties? Where are the positive aspects going to manifest? Well, it's going to manifest in the house in which the planets fall. So always pay attention to the house that Sun and Mercury fall in. And for example, if you're interested in business or doing your own business or starting your own business, we'll look to see where Sun and Mercury are. And whatever house that's in, that's going to give you an indication of the things that business might work better for you in that regard. If Sun and Mercury are in bad dignity or having trouble, whatever house that combination's in, that's what you need to pay attention to, because you're probably going to trip yourself up by either paying too much attention to the minute details, or not paying enough attention to the details, or mismanaging the affairs of that house. So these are things we have to think about when we're looking at Sun-Mercury combinations, just by the planets being what they are by themselves. Now again, you can go into more detailed understanding of these yogas, any yogas really, by understanding the Lajitati of Ashtas. All right, so we'll conclude here with Sun and Mercury.